Greetings, dear, I am Krian of Magnetic Service. Again, we tell you that the Magnetic Service name is a metaphor, because the magnetic grid of the planet has what we call the stance of consciousness. We have told you before that I could not live here on this planet without it. Early on, we told him that the magnetic attributes of the Earth had to change because of the change of consciousness to come. This was so that everyone was prepared for what is coming. This is a service for which I came originally, and now that this was done by my networking group, I'm just a messenger. People said, well, where you come from really, Krian? I told you this morning that I am not an entity and I'm not single. It is a human tendency to consider the messages that come only from a single source. I am the creative source, just like you. I represent the pure consciousness of love and compassion and speak through this human being that you see sitting in the chair. This is very strange to you? 30 years after the death of you called Jesus, Saul of Tarsus was in prison. But now his name is Paul, and he's writing what someday will become the Holy Scriptures. He's sitting there, and the man is full of joy, tears streaming down his face and the half-light of his cell. He is writing the words that many millions will read one day. They will call them the Word of God, but it is not. It is the Word of Paul, under the influence of his beautiful God. This is channeling. Directly, it is getting information about the wonder of God, what happened on earth and the Master of Love. But when a modern man sits in a chair and gives updated messages from the creative source, about the big change, there are many who oppose and say impossible. This is your judgment, dear, and there is no judgment of his belief. But we still ask you to discern, at least discern in this situation and feel it. Discerning the energy of what you are currently listening to. You will hear these words and understand them and hear them, or you will feel them. We invite you to feel compassion and love for each of you, or you already have your mind made up that this is not happening. The question of old soul. This channeling today is an answer to a question that is often asked by old awakened souls. Dear Krian, dear Spirit, dear God, in this new energy, which is the old souls on this planet can do that will not only strengthen this energy, but will help us. What will happen? What can we do? What should we do? Honey, I've told you before that every time this question is answered, the answer evolves as your linear time passes. Potential change, so you are in a reality that never experienced before. This is new. It may seem like it was yesterday or the day before, but the potential changed around. The type of change you expect personally cannot come at all, but instead, something better. Your situation is always dynamic variable. There is no set amount of energy being released to you in a certain, dear time. His consciousness changes the potential of your life all the time. It's beautiful. I can give you these things I will give you because there was precedence established in other worlds like yours, and some of you have passed it. Have you been there? Your Akasha says here's the situation again and I know what to do. I saw it before. This is not the first time. You are on the verge of great change human on this planet. What can you do to join this energy? 5 concepts. I'll give you 5 concepts today, and they are not easy. There is a list for you to follow, as long as we do not give lists. These are concepts, and the first I will say is crucial. This means he will be the first time that we discuss this issue. First, know this experience. Knowing is an English expression that means the consolidation of belief. Do you believe that there are serious because the saw since he was born? It is invisible, but you believe in it so strongly that not even think about it. It simply is. Did you know gravity? It's not something that you believe to believe in the tooth fairy, for example, as a child. No, it is known and becomes part of you until your last breath. Do you believe in gravity? We will ask you to meet the belief that the energy that is coming in is very different from the energy that came from. This is the first and it is essential. You have to build this into their belief system so strongly that everything we do from now on, recognize the new energy as the new normal. She will never return to the way it was and is part of a new plan. It's almost like you died and came back with a gravity that was smaller and you could do more things. You should recognize this. Honey, This has to be the first of 5, because you will not be able to do anything unless you believe that this change occurred and is real. The change is dynamic and it keeps changing. However, like you turn a page, you are reading new words in a new romance, but the page remains upset. You do not have to go back and read what happened before that. You now started to turn page, experiencing new energy, and you recognize knowing what is happening. Second. Number 2 is the permission of change. Oh, human being, get used to the change. Things are changing and perhaps they are not moving in the direction you had planned. How do you feel about this? Oh, singular human being, you can understand that allowing the change is mature? Can you think outside the box? You can stand there and say, this or something better? I allow the growth, I allow the change of consciousness in me that can change my life in ways I never, ever thought. What is your fear of it? Fear refers to change, not about where you are going, it is only the word itself, change. Thus, this series of 5 seconds is to allow accepting change without fear. Look at the numerology of these things. Number 1 is always new beginnings, this is easy. Number 2 often deals with the duality, and duality is often the fundamental fear of change. You do not want your reality away from this central point that is used, either. It is often survival between light and darkness. The duality that you've been used to, this balance between light and dark, is comfortable. Now, suddenly, the spirit wants to push it a little, so that you capture a little more light and darkness begins to decline in your life. This will do almost anything. Change? You allow this or not? Belief and change permission are the first 2. On the other side of the veil, we look at you and know that everything you are going through is how to break old habits. But they are just habits, that is all they are. You're like someone who has superpowers. You can fly, but it is simply too comfortable for you to walk around. The metaphor is clear, the permission of change. Third. The next 3 are more practical, but are very difficult. With its intact belief, and with your permission for things to change, you are now ready for one of the biggest steps. Number 3 is the compassionate action. Whatever you do from now on will be from a standpoint of compassion. Imagine you are on a road and is in a vehicle and someone gives you a cut. He presses the horn for you and act like an idiot and a fool, yelling something for you. How do you feel? You can take the scenario to a compassionate level? Really? The answer is yes. First, do not let it affect you. There are some universal law that tells you that you should now get angry in return. You are a compassionate person, so let the anger and frustration buttons are turned off, to the point where there is no reaction at all. Instead, all you can think is that this person is having a nasty day. There is no rancor, keep no retaliation to do, and you do not cry for him. You have a compassionate action in everything you do. Things can happen to you in your life regarding communication with other individuals who can usually hurt their feelings. Your life is unique and there are things that people say can hurt your heart. This is about the disappointments you have with those around you and how they act. Honey, this is simply human. But what if all you do as a result of these disappointments come from a compassionate soul who sees it all differently? In a compassionate way, there is really no one to hurt your feelings, never, because you know who you are. They cannot define it and make it something you are not, just because they say things. The real issue is that these guys are probably out of balance right now and they are just having a bad day. Do you realize what I'm saying? Compassionate action comes from a compassionate heart. It is a position of strength and wisdom. Now, some of you who are listening to this, need to hear this. It's not a weakness to be compassionate. The masters who have lived on this planet exuded compassion. They conveyed. They were not weak. So whatever you have been told about a kind and compassionate person, you will have to readjust your perception. Balance is strength. Compassion is strength. A balanced human being rarely catch a disease, you know that? A balanced human being will have what you call synchronicity. Others call it luck. Synchronicity is being in the right place at the right time and have perfect things going on, because they are the result of compassionate action. Compassion, in fact, is an energy that keeps the idea of luck or chance. You control your reality. It is a beautiful package, is not it? When you start a path of compassionate action, everything changes. This was the number 3. Now, 3 in numerology is the catalyst. A catalyst is a word often used in chemical, as a substance that changes things around it, while often it remains the same. Compassionate person changes those around him/her, instead of being affected by them. No negativity will turn to you. It is a position of strength and others often will want to be with you. You change the land where you walk. Bedroom. Number 4, spiritual vision. I want you to start to see the big picture. I want you to see God in everything. I want you to look out and see God in the trees, the earth and the light that comes from the sun. I want you to feel the warmth of God shining on you, even when you are in darkness. Compassion is one thing, but with spiritual vision you can see the creative source of all things in other people. The person you cut the road has God within, just like you. His spiritual vision, coupled with his compassionate action, says, there's a creature like me who still do not know. Not yet. The compassionate soul, which was the number 3, which has spiritual vision, is one that can see God in all. It helps you become compassionate, not when someone yells in his face and instead of anger, what you see on your face, is God? Can you do that? You have to think differently. You may even have to be more like the spiritual masters of the planet, because that's what they did. Honey, these things that I'm giving you are a true and accurate representation of the new human being. You will not be fully 100% successful in each of these unless you practice them. Number 1 is to know what has changed. When you know something, this does not happen instantly. You will have to work with it. The belief has to be gradually consolidated in your brain when you see the evidence of it and eventually be recognized. You are actually training yourself to know and believe. Permission to change is you are training yourself to accept things that can be different. You are working with this all the time. A compassionate character comes slowly, not all at once. Do not feel you failed because you feel frustrated or even angry. It's just a reminder that you were not compassionate. And the spiritual vision comes with time, dear, it comes with time. There will come a time where all you look at is the light of God in a totally different perspective. The employee who comes to your restaurant table is not an employee, at all, but instead, this person is a beautiful human being bringing the light of the Creator. You smile at the clerk and want to embrace this person and thank you for coming to the table. This is very strange to you? It is very strange to see the beauty in the first place, instead of judgment and criticism. You'll eventually treat others differently, and this is not a weakness. The greatest strength that you may have as a human being is to see God in others. Outside, you see God in the trees and know that there is a divine system and you're part of it and it, part of you. You may be overwhelmed by joy and love, just to be part of the system. It is very different from that taught him. 5th. In numerology, 5 is changing and is one of the most difficult attributes, since it requires patience. The human being wants everything now. Realize? I know who's here. It is inherent in you want things immediately. We have discussed this many times. When the authority speaks, she wants something now. Every time there are instructions and something to do, there is a push to do so at the time, not later. Human beings want things they are delivered quickly and want the action happens immediately. You will have to practice relaxation with synchronicity. Listen the things that many of you are asking, it depends on what other things happening in the first place. Relax. These other things are things that you apparently have no control, but the potential is there to be changed. If you can wait for it, and not get frustrated or angry, this is the task. For years and years, when I started channeling with my partner, we talked about having the ticket for the train and wait at the station. You paid the ticket. The train is coming, but you just do not know when. So, because you are a patient person, you know that the train is coming, get comfortable with it and have a nice time waiting. That is, instead of complaining that he's late. Patience. Spiritual patience is gold. Each of these 5 things is not intrinsic to any of you. You were not born with them, and this is why they are difficult. But they are achievable, dear. No, work with them, one at a time. Accept the first. Know what you're doing. Understand and trust, then the rest of them can work at once. Some of you will be better at one than the other, and this is because you are unique and their personalities are a summary of their lessons and experiences from past lives. Do not compare notes with others and then feel you are doing wrong. Did you hear me? There is a tendency to bring everything together in a list, then do it so that it is not up to a generic list, is not doing it right. You cannot do that, not with these things, not with the individual soul that you are, having lived so many lives. Did you know that what you did the last time he was here, affects it now? Some of you are ready for them. Some do not. And some will have to practice more than others. Thus, addressing them personally and work on the puzzle no matter what others tell you that you should be doing. You are very different from each other. I want you to know all this, and this learning is totally and completely normal and acceptable before God. You will not fail. Do not compare yourself with others. I want to look forward, in the eyes of the Creator, and know that you are God, and that everything I told you is true and possible. This is just the beginning. That's why I came to talk to you today. I am Korean, in love with humanity. And so it is. Korean